Welcome to the Granny Square project. Okay, I'm going to give a brief tutorial today on how to make a granny square, starting with how to chain and going all the way how to finish off and weave in your ends. You're going to need a few items for this project. First of all, this will be the square that we're making. This square measures 7.5 inches by 7.5 inches. It has 6 rounds, with each color making up 2 of the rounds. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on our granny squares, you can choose whatever colors you want for the interior rounds. But we want all the granny squares to have black on the outside. And that way, you can all work on granny squares and then turn them in and they will already match because the black edges will make them match and they'll have a stained glass look with different interior colors. So, to make this granny square, you're going to need a few things. First of all, let's start with a crochet hook. The crochet hook that I use is a J/10 6mm crochet hook. I prefer metal, but you can use wood or plastic if you like. I just like metal. I like the smooth, roundy ended ones. And let me just say that you want to get your gauge right. So if your hook needs to be smaller or larger in order for you to get a 7.5 inch square, then choose a different size hook. But for me, this is what I can use to get a 7.5 inch square. Next, you're going to need 3 colors of yarn. The yarn weight should be a worsted weight or a number 4. That's a pretty typical standard yarn. And you're also going to need for this project a pair of scissors and a yarn needle. So, with that, let's get started. So, before we can get started, we have to get the yarn onto the hook. So what you're going to want to do, take the end of your yarn, simply turn a loop, and then fold that loop over and pull the yarn through the loop that you just made. This will make a slip knot. You can take your hook and put it through the slip knot and then just snug that slip knot right up next to your hook. So to get started, we're going to simply chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to make a ring with those 4 chains by connecting the very first chain with a slip stitch. A slip stitch is simply going through the chain, grabbing the yarn, pulling it through that stitch and the other stitch, and you've made a loop that we will now use as the basis to build our granny square around. As we begin building our granny square from this loop we've created, we will start with a chain 3. So we're going to simply do a 1, 2, 3. And this chain 3 is going to count as the first double crochet in 4 sets of 3 double crochets that you'll be making. So this will count as the first one. Then we're going to do another double crochet and we're going to go into the middle of that loop. So we're going to go around through your loop, pull up some yarn. You'll now have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to go through 2 of the loops, pull up and go through the last 2. That's your first double crochet. Do another one. Pull up some yarn, go through, pull up some more yarn, go 2 and 2, and that's your first set of 3 double crochets. Now between each of these sets you're going to do 2 chains. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then we're simply going to do the process over again with 3 double crochets. So pick up yarn, go through, pull up, go through 2, go through 2, yarn, pull up, go through 2, go through 2, yarn, pull up, whoops, go through 2, go through 2. It's your second set. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2. Try to keep the tail of your work out of the way. It's going to get in the way, but you're just going to have to keep pushing it out of the way so it won't get tangled up. 2 more sets to go. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, and your last set of 3 double crochets, 1, 2, stay out of the way tail, and 3. Then we'll chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to simply slip stitch where your work is with your beginning top chain from your chain 3. So get it in there, pull out a stitch, and simply slip it through. And now you've completed the first round of your granny square. 4 sets of 3 double crochets. Bravo! Okay, we're ready to do the next round of our granny square. And because on the granny squares that we're working, we're going to do 2 rounds of each color, we have to continue this color over to get started working in this square over here. So to do that, you're going to do a simple slip stitch through the top of these 2 double crochets and into this corner. So we're just going to slip stitch once through the yarn, through the loop, 2 through the stitch, and then finally into the corner. Now that gets us to where we need to be to start round 2. To start round 2, we're going to do the same thing we did before by starting with 3 chains. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do another double crochet and another double crochet. These are all going to be 3 sets of double crochet with 1, 2 chains in the middle. Those 2 chains in the middle help make a nice sharp corner on your work. So do another set of 3, 2, and 3. Now in order to skip over a set of 3 double crochets, you're only going to need to chain once. That'll cause your work to fan out and make a nice straight or semi-straight edge on your square. So we've chained once, and now we're going to go into this next corner and do 2 sets of 3 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, get some more yarn, and then another set, 1, 2, 3, and again just chain once to go across. So chain once, start again, 1, 2, and 3, chain 2 for your corner, 1, 2, then another set, chain once, and then finish your corner up, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 1, 2, 3, chain once, and then simply join that chain to the top of your 3 chain at the beginning with a slip stitch. And you have finished round 2 and the first color on your granny square. So you have finished off the second round and you have a loop here. So what you actually do to finish off a color with crocheting is you're simply going to snip it and pull the yarn through. Keep the yarn to the back so that at the end we can work in all these ends that are going to be coming off of your work. And then you're going to want to take your new color, which is going to be this red, and you're going to put your yarn through the top of the crochet where you're going to be bringing it in. Actually, let's start in a corner since that's where we're going to be doing our work. So we're going to start it right here in the top corner. Pull up a single loop. Leave enough tail so that at the end you'll be able to work it into your work. I always like to pull both together when I do the first chain, which helps kind of anchor your work, your yarn in place so it doesn't go everywhere and your first stitch doesn't get too loose. So go through once, holding both pieces of yarn, and then 2, 3 with the single piece. And simply start the process over again with 3 double crochets. Each corner you chain 2, another set of 3, and remember to go over a set of 3 double crochets, you're going to chain once. And when you get to a 2 chain space that's on a side of your square, you're only going to do 1 set of 3 double crochets. Then you will chain once and do 2 sets in the corner. And what you're going to do, that's 1, 2, is we're going to go and do 2 rounds of this red, and then we'll change colors again. Now we're going to join this last color in our corner over here. Start with a good length tail so you can work it in. Pull through, hold both ends, do your first chain, then just use the yarn that you're going to be working from to do the second and third chains to get you started on your 5th round. Then just go at it like you've done on the other rounds. What we want to do now, we've got our set granny square, so we want to flip it over, and you'll notice on back you've got some tags of yarn that have been left out and they need to be worked in with your yarn needle. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to thread the yarn through the eye of the needle and then simply work in your ends and hide them in the work. So to do that, just want to slip it in where you won't see it, but this also works to secure your work. This is why you want to leave a good length so it'll hide it and you have enough to get a good stitch in. This first one's always a little bit of a booger. Work it all the way in. Then when you can't work it in anymore, you just want to snip it off. This doesn't have to be precise or exact. You don't have to sweat it because it's not going to show. No one will notice. But this just secures your work. And I just like to kind of go up and down and all around until I feel that the piece will get, you know, and the more you use, the good thing about knit and crochet is that the more you use a piece, the more the fibers become intertwined and locked together, and then once you wash it, of course, those fibers are going to lock in there. And so you're going to do this process with all of your ends and weave them in. And it takes a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. So weave in your ends. And of course you're going to want to keep like colors together. That keeps them hidden. Up and down and all around. Is that how you brush your teeth? So I'm going to work in all my ends next. That's how to make a granny square. Yay!